Well, hello everyone and welcome back. This is a little bit of a different video from my channel. Instead of showing you 5 what's for dinner meal ideas or things that we've had to eat around here, I'm going to show you 1 what's for dinner. This is our very favorite recipe for enchiladas. The first one I ever made after we got married, given to me by a friend. So I've been making these for about 28 years or so. I'm also going to show you how I took our garden tomatoes and made an absolutely delicious batch of salsa. I've been using this recipe to make fresh salsa for several years now. I found it on Pinterest and I will share that down below. I made a delicious fruit bread. It's actually made with strawberries, blueberries, and bananas. That recipe will be below as well. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, stay tuned. We're going to jump right on into the fresh salsa. This here, simmering on the stove, is a big pot full of garden tomatoes, and I am going to turn these into salsa. What I do is get my tomatoes washed, but I do not peel them or core them. I put them in the kettle, I put water in there, and I let them boil away. And when it's all done, they turn out looking like this. Then what happens after they completely cool, you can peel the skin right off. It just comes off so easy. So that's what we're going to show you now. You can see here that the skin just starts to break, and then when it's time to peel the skin off, because we've boiled them like this, it's just going to come right off. And so I'm going to let these cool just a little bit longer. They will be very, very hot and will need to cool, or you won't be able to hold them. And then I'm going to cut out the cores, make sure everything is removed that doesn't need to be there, and then I'm going to blend these up in my blender. So I will show you as I go along here, making homemade salsa with tomatoes straight from our garden. I am a big fan of red onions, and I had some today. I love putting these in the salsa, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on chopping the onions and the cilantro. It's a perfect time to get that done while my tomatoes are cooling. And I can't reiterate how important it is if you can use fresh ingredients. Salsa like this will be over the top fresh salsa. So here we are, juicing a lime, and we're going to move on to garlic. I'm going to put that in my garlic press and add that in. The flavors are just bursting in this. It is really delicious. Alright, we've added in the salt and we've added in a little bit of cumin, and now for honey. The little bit of sweet really brings balance to this. It cuts the acidity of the tomatoes and it just adds an additional layer of flavor. Now to get started on the tomatoes. They have cooled, and I'm just going to start getting the skin removed. I'm going to start coring them. Any spots that look less than lovely we will take out. Some of these come right out just by holding onto the stem. You can pull it out with your finger. Some not so much, and you can use your knife to discard that. But I also like to take the tomato once I'm all done with the skin and the core, and I'll just give it a little squeeze to remove some of the extra juice. That way my salsa is not so watery. So I'm going to get started on getting the rest of these all finished. Alright, I wanted to leave it in real time just to show you how quick the process is after you get your tomatoes in your blender. Now, of course, this depends on your preference, how you like your salsa. You may want it chunkier, you may want it even thinner than this. But this is about how we like ours, so I don't blend it any further than this. This looks perfect. Into the bowl. Now we will just give this a stir. I will say that I've made this a lot of times. Sometimes I throw stuff into the blender. I might throw the whole garlic cloves into the blender. I usually don't do my onion into the blender because I don't want it to get too fine. I kind of like a chunkier bite of onion and salsa. So I've put the honey in there. I've put the spices in there. Blended them all together. I've done it different ways. Today I just happen to do it this way. So this one's pretty versatile, and a lot of it depends on your preference with your salsa. Isn't this beautiful? I love these vibrant colors. This is just such a great salsa. The only thing I have left to add in are my jalapeno peppers, and I ended up just adding some of the diced pickled jalapenos that I had in my refrigerator this time around instead of fresh ones because I did not have any. Alright, I just made these 2 loaves of bread. It's getting ready to go in the oven, and it's a it's just called, I think it's just called fruit bread. Let me see here. It's called fresh fruit bread. It's the recipe I found. I had 2 cups of fruit that I blended down a little bit in my blender, and it was a mixed fruit blend of blueberries, strawberries, and bananas. So this recipe called for 2 cups of fruit, either just blueberries or just peaches. And she also said you could use various kinds of fruit, so in the notes. So I opted for the blueberry, strawberry, banana blend. I am working on getting my freezer indoor and in my barn whittled down a little bit because our beef is coming, and I have full freezers that need to be emptied a little bit so I can fit all of this beef in when it gets here in a couple weeks. So I am using things from my freezer, and that's what inspired this bread today. Plus I had a banana that needed to be used, so I thought, okay, let's make some sort of bread. So it's got a really pretty purple color. I tasted the batter. It tastes really good. I blended it a little bit, but you can still see chunks of strawberries and blueberries throughout. So fingers crossed, I hope this is going to be good. I will leave the website linked below that I found this recipe on. You can resist a warm slice of bread. So when that came out of the oven, I sliced off just a little piece. I was so curious to how it would taste. Put some butter on there, and this was really good. We thoroughly enjoyed it. It made 2 really nice sized loaves. I will make this again with various fruit. It was delicious. Alright, and so now that the salsa is made, we've got that cooling in the refrigerator, and the bread is made, we're going to jump on into the main course, which is these skillet enchiladas. This is a old recipe book given to me by my mom years ago, and on some of the blank pages I have written in recipes. Like I said, we've been just celebrated our 29th anniversary, and I started making these, probably about a year after we got married. So that is the recipe, skillet enchiladas. One thing that's interesting about this recipe, you use cream of mushroom soup in with your enchilada sauce, and you also use a little bit of milk. That's kind of different. You also use a can of these green chilies. That gives you a little bit of heat. This is a great recipe. It is our favorite for an enchilada with red sauce. So my ground beef has been browned up and it is drained. I've got about, I'd say, 2.5 to 3 pounds here. And I am just going to go ahead and season this meat. The recipe does not call for the meat to be seasoned, but I like it seasoned. It's just another added layer of flavor once you get these enchiladas all put together. So the inside, the meat portion, is going to be very flavorful as well. So instead of frying onion up this time around, I just use some onion powder. I'm adding in a little bit of cumin and a little bit of garlic powder. These are just some pretty standard ingredients that we like when we have Mexican. I'm going to add in a little bit of salt as well. And then I'm going to pour in some water and I'm going to let this simmer together so all of these flavors can marry together. Alright, now we're going to move on to getting the enchilada sauce prepared. I am not a fan of just straight red enchilada sauce, and I think really it's because this is the way I eat enchiladas most often. The red enchilada sauce, all on its own, it's a pretty strong flavor. So what a great idea, whoever came up with this recipe, of adding the cream of mushroom soup to it. The flavor is just so much more creamy and it's just not as strong as when you have straight enchilada sauce. And then, like I said, another interesting ingredient is milk. So you can honestly add as much milk really as you prefer to get that creamy flavor. You could also even just add another can of cream of mushroom soup. You could add some sour cream. It's just an ingredient. This is the recipe, the cream of mushroom and the milk. But those ingredients just kind of tame down that sauce and make it really creamy and wonderful. And remember how I told you I was making a valiant effort to get my freezer stock kind of whittled down as best I could? Well, I had this container of refried beans I had made from scratch using dry beans just probably about a month ago, and I had leftovers, so I thought, okay, that's going to go in the freezer for whenever I need it next. And I just had an idea to add this to my ground beef, and this was actually just wonderful. It kind of made the ground beef a little more creamy. It was really, really flavorful. Actually, you couldn't even see that the beans were there once they were all stirred in, but they really added some flavor and they stretched the ground beef a little bit. I know some people do this intentionally, like when they make taco meat, they automatically add in refried beans to stretch it a little bit. I've never done that before, but this really worked great, and it really was a nice sort of softer, creamier texture for the ground beef filling. Here is my enchilada sauce that is simmering on the stove. Once those are mixed, they simmer together. You have to be really careful though and not get too far away from it because it has milk in it and it will scorch and stick on the bottom if you let it go too long. So always keep an eye on anything with milk. Alright, my counter has been wiped thoroughly and it has become a wonderful workspace for me to use to start building these enchiladas. So I'm going to get going here, getting my tortillas out, and we're going to get these things filled up. I just want to take a second here to say I appreciate you so much for coming back to my channel. I really wanted to do something just a little bit different this time, just to mix it up a little bit and keep it kind of fresh and interesting. And I'm real glad that you came back, and I hope you're staying tuned to the end to see this delicious meal that we end up having. Again, I always appreciate you coming to my channel. I appreciate every time that you leave a comment and a thumbs up. That helps my channel out a lot. And if you haven't yet subscribed, I'd love to have you hit that red subscribe button and stick around here. We've got some fun stuff coming up for the fall, that's for sure. And so again, as always, thanks for supporting my channel. After spraying some cooking spray on my baking dish here, I'm going to ladle in some of the enchilada sauce to be on the bottom, and then I'm just going to start layering these things in. I managed to squeeze quite a few. I ended up making 2 pans, and then we're going to cover with the sauce and put some fun toppings here on the top. Leave a comment below if you ever reuse your little plastic containers. I definitely do every now and then. Now, I had some extra enchilada sauce. That is going to go in this little container that I have labeled enchilada sauce, and it's going to go into the freezer. I will use that coming up if I make enchiladas again, or if I make some enchilada soup or chicken enchilada soup, some taco soup. There's all kinds of ways I could use that. I'm not going to let that go to waste, so the extra is going to go in my freezer for the next time around. I heated up some white queso that I had in the refrigerator. We had some of that recently. I heated that up. That's not part of the original recipe, but what a great topping this was. And after I finished with that, I used some shredded cheese and some black olives. I don't know if you know this, you can store black olives in the freezer. I seem to never be able to get through a whole can of the sliced or whatever. If I need it for a recipe, it usually doesn't take the whole can. So I just drain them, throw them in a little freezer bag, and in the freezer they go. And you can pull them out to use in a recipe, say something like this. You can add it to pizza, whatever you need it for. I actually didn't finish everything I had in this little bag, so I used what I needed, popped the rest back in the freezer. The freezer is your friend. Don't waste things when you can throw them in the freezer. Most everything freezes pretty well. And so let the freezer help you out with some of your leftovers or ingredients that maybe you haven't used before they go to waste. Throw them in the freezer. I let my little rice cooker do the work for me here tonight for this rice. I just added it in with a little bit of olive oil, some dry chicken base, soup base, like the dry bouillon powder, and then once it was all done, I stirred in some of my salsa that I just made for a delicious Mexican rice to serve alongside our enchiladas. All right, we are in the home stretch. The bread has cooled. I have it sliced up on this little platter here, and tonight is family night. All of our kids and grandkids will be here, and everything is just about ready for their arrival. So here is a look at our big buffet that we had all spread out on the counter tonight. I made a tossed salad with some fresh red onion and mushrooms. Here are the 2 pans of the enchiladas. They are a crowd pleaser. All of our family really enjoys these. We also served alongside the enchiladas the rice, which of course I just showed you, the delicious salsa that we made earlier in the day with a variety of tortilla chips and some of the dipper corn chips. We have all the toppings that anybody might want for salad. And then along with the delicious fruit bread, I made a fresh fruit salad with grapes, strawberries, watermelon, and pineapple. This meal was so good. It felt like we were having a Mexican fiesta. All we were missing was being in Mexico. That would have been nice, huh? Well, I hope you enjoyed this different video, a look at what we had for dinner, and really just spending the day with me in the kitchen. I really enjoyed taking my time today and just getting all of this prepared, and we all really enjoyed eating it together. Be blessed, my friends. Thanks as always for watching. Come back for the next one, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.